Experience the movie critics are calling a truly fantastic blockbuster.
This song is copyright free. You can use it for anything.
The Fantastic Four, Marvel's first family. The reason why they are so popular is that they have a family-like dynamic. Ben and Johnny act like siblings, and Susan and Reed are like parents to the two of them, and they have a child. That's why everyone loves them so much. Until Fox bought the rights to the characters and made 3 movies about them, and it could have gotten better. Let's just say that. Look, if I'm gonna be very honest here, I think the Fantastic Four are pretty cool, but I've never watched them on TV besides the movies. I think I've discovered the first film on Disney XD once in my life. I only watched the second one because it was PG and the first one was PG-13. I wasn't allowed to watch those movies at the time. But when I watched the first one a few years later, I loved it. I even watched the second one as a kid. That was my jam. Now that I've watched it, it's like the Raimi trilogy, but a little bit more dumbed down for kids. I can see why these movies sucked ass back in the day. They were weird, corny, and more kid-like instead of being darker for older audiences. It's cringe-worthy levels of corny. But a few years later, the team was rebooted into being more darker, more edgy. And that could have gone better, and there's so much drama about it, but we'll get to that later. So why am I making this video? Well, I'm making this video because of the release of the new Fantastic Four movie coming this month. So, like, if you guys are new to the channel, then, like, be sure to leave that like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to all so you won't miss a video or a live stream. You guys can follow my socials in the link down below. You guys can join my new Discord server if you're 18 plus. And not just that, you guys can join my membership as well. You get some pretty good perks, you know, behind the scenes stuff, video previews. I think I might need to change that up a little bit. So without wasting any time, let's go back 20 years in the past with Fantastic Four. Okay, so this was one of the early attempts to bring the Fantastic Four into the spotlight, but honestly, it could have been much better. While kids from that era loved it, older audiences weren't impressed. Not everyone. When people say this film was inspired from the Sam Raimi trilogy, I can see why they think that, but this one falls short in comparison, so let's dive into why. Okay, so our main guy, Reed Richards, is determined to share his research with the world, hoping to help others. Unfortunately, things don't go as planned because Dr. Doom thinks the presentation sucks. So to complete his research, the group heads to space where they gain their powers. The same goes for Victor, and the rest you probably already know. Ben loses his girlfriend, the teen learns to control their powers, battles Doom, saves the day, and yeah, that's basically it. You probably already know. Let me be real here, the plot isn't anything like groundbreaking, nothing too like earth-shattering. It feels basic, there's no deep evolution of storylines, it's just fine. The pacing is a little quick, leaving little room for character development due to a crappy short runtime, honestly. It's just a little challenging to flesh things out when there's not really enough time in the runtime. They sometimes include moments that are not very important, but who cares? The writing can make the film feel overall cheesy. It has some serious moments, but they often come off as corny because early 2000s stuff, with jokes that just don't hit for like older audiences, just younger kids. I looked back at the movie and they don't do a lot until the end. I see it as sometimes important. They're trying to figure out their powers and study them and learn to control them, but half the time they don't do anything. I know this movie was released back in 2005, but I can't help but criticize the CGI, man. Some parts look more like a cartoon rather than realistic. Some of the CG looks fine, but when Reed stretches his arm or uses his powers, it just becomes a little bit more noticeable for me. It looks a little animated, as you would say. And look, I'll admit I'm no expert in color grading, but honestly, it doesn't look great. It reminds me of, like, a mix of puke and sludge, I think. And yes, this was common in the early 2000s with comedy films, but I'm sorry, this is just not great. Yeah, I'm sorry, the characters are nothing to write home about. I do enjoy Johnny's character because he was in Deadpool 3, and the actors are fine. Nothing else. I think this movie was kinda rushed and not much to develop any characters or learn about them or something like that. I'm just gonna say that this movie is way too corny to the point where it's just not very good. I mean, the climax is good though, and at least they're trying to learn about their powers, but the film is just, no man, I just can't. So I'm just gonna give it a 2.5 out of 10. Let's move on to the rise of the Silver Surfer. After the movie was a financial hit, the first film I'm talking about, Fox has officially greenlit a sequel. This one is a little bit more kiddier than I remember. This time, it's a half hour shorter, a teeny bit cornier, and it's a little bit fast paced. I don't know, I just let OBS record the movie while I was doing something else. So, in the sequel, Reed and Sue are about to get married, but are rudely interrupted by the Silver Surfer, who can take their powers. So to figure this out, they have to work with the villain in this one. So it's obvious, Doom betrays them, works with the Silver Surfer to save the world, Reed and Sue get married, and that's the end. Or is it? It is, for that franchise, because it did poorly at the box office. Okay, let me be honest here, it's a little bit better than the first movie. Despite it being PG and a bit more silly, it made some improvements, but honestly it still kinda sucks. It's got an even shorter runtime. They added the Silver Surfer into the story so they can make it interesting, and that's it. Like I said, the runtime is too fast, which means we don't really get to see a lot of character development here. Or do we? Maybe I was wrong. I think we get to see Johnny and Ben fight less in this movie. They're like, I don't know, a brotherly dynamic. They're scared of like being by themselves because Reed and Sue want to have a normal life, but yeah. But for Johnny and Sue, we only get a mention of their father and we don't get to see him. And Dr. Doom is back and does stuff. I don't know. It's not all that bad, to be honest. The team does something in the movie instead of like messing around like they did in the first movie. They do stuff by saving people. They don't just focus on one thread, they actually do things. It's good. And the visuals are a little bit better. It's noticeable, but whatever. Alright, if I'm gonna be on the real with you guys, this is a little bit more harder to review because it moves too quickly and doesn't allow enough time for everything to sink in. So I'm just gonna say that it had a good plan, but was executed poorly. And it didn't get enough good execution to make a great universe, because you'll know how that turned out. Thankfully, it was cancelled. This movie is still bad, but improved on some things. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. Now, let's move on to Fan 4 Stick. Oh my gosh, this was so ass. You guys remember at the beginning of the video where I said there's a lot of drama for this movie? Yeah, there is. And it killed any hope for this movie being great. I was thinking about being brief about this whole thing, but going through this is more interesting than the actual movie itself, so let's get into it. Fox hired Josh Trank to direct the reboot. He was an indie director, so Fox said that it would be a good choice. But oh boy, they were so wrong. This one wanted to be darker than the last two we went through. However, instead of letting the director do his thing, the studio decided to meddle with the project, resulting in numerous reshoots, which means that they weren't staying true to the source material at all. Not just that, Josh Trank wasn't being a good sport on set either. Allegedly, he would show up high out of his mind, trashing his rental home that the studio was paying for, which was by his dogs, He also built a tent and would sit in his trailer and not talk to anybody. But we don't know if that's true, so take it with a grain of salt. He was very weird towards the cast members, I think, but not in a bad sexual harassment type of way, I think. But not only that, he was bashing the film in a tweet which he later deleted and is the reason why this movie sucked and bombed badly. And there was no promotion for it. So yeah, there's a lot of drama and why this sucked. So let's get to the actual movie now. So this one is a little bit different. Reed Richards builds a teleporter to another planet, but that's where they get their powers. Reed leaves the place to figure it out. The rest of the team trains for a bit. Doom becomes evil, obviously, and the dad dies. The team stops Doom and saves the day. And yeah, that's how the movie ends. Okay, let's talk about the good stuff. Alright, let's talk about what's good about it before we rip it into shreds. The visuals and color grading look pretty nice. The CG is way better than the last two. We get to see Susan and Johnny's dad in this one, and we get to see Reed and Ben as kids. The Dr. Doom scene was pretty cool, where it felt like a horror movie a little bit. I don't know. That's pretty much all the good stuff. Let me just be clear, the film is just slow and boring, and there's not a lot of superheroing until the very end. There's so much talking scenes. There's like a lot of talking scenes to the point where people just say stuff. The characters don't have good development in the movie. Their dad is just not very good. He's just kind of a one-note guy who does very little for the plot. Same goes for everyone else. They're just boring. I don't hate the actors. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. Alright, because, you know, the director kind of sucks. Oh, and one more thing, Johnny Storm is black. The woke mob is probably going to get me for this one, isn't it? The reason why we don't see these people grow over time is that the movie is kinda short. Even though this movie is a snooze fest, it's an hour and 40 minutes long, and everything just moves too fast. We cut to 1 year later where they learn to train their powers or control them. We see them in action sometimes, but it's just military footage and maybe another scene where Ben finds Reed or something. They don't do a whole lot. And if I'm gonna be honest here, I wanted to watch this movie when I was 10. I'm kinda glad I didn't watch it because at the same time, this movie was boring and it sucked. Let me be honest here. I am not a comic book reader, nor am I a reader in general, but it's not like the original comics at all. Like I said, they made some changes to make it feel a little bit more grounded, and honestly, it's a good concept on paper, but when you turn it into a movie, it doesn't really work. And the budget was just inflated with the reshoots they did. Oh my gosh. This film sucks. Yeah, it's such a mess. This movie is not very good. It's just boring. So I'll just give it a 2 out of 10, bro. Unbelievable. Okay, I'm gonna tell y'all this. These movies are not that great. Sure, they have some good elements to it, but in the very end, everyone just stopped making these movies. I'm talking about the studios. I know people might look at these movies fondly, but to me, it's nothing like the Raimi trilogy, where it's fun, I think. The first 2 movies were fine, but the last one really shit the bed. A sequel was going to happen for Fantastic, but was cancelled for obvious reasons. From what I'm seeing, the new Fantastic Four movie looks really good. It has great cinematography. It takes place in a more retro futuristic setting. It's kind of like The Incredibles a little bit. I know people are saying that the people are a little bit mixed on the movie, but I'm just gonna be open-minded about it. So yeah, the old Fantastic Four movies are not that great, and Josh Trank is a complete asshole. If y'all enjoyed this video, then leave a like and subscribe, turn on notifications to all so you won't miss a video or a live stream, and yeah, I'm out. Flame on, everyone.